Hey everyone, Charlie Morgan here, and welcome to Virtual Assistant Masterclass. This is likely going to be hire number one for you. For most solopreneurs, the first person to hire is an assistant, but specifically a virtual assistant. The beauty of these businesses is we can run them remotely. We don't need to have an on-site team, and all of your tasks and things are things that can be done online for the most part. So it's really exciting because, you probably might not be there yet, ready to hire someone, but once you're signing clients, once you're delivering results for clients and you're sort of running the business, there's going to be lots of little tasks that crop up that you can outsource. Again, remember, we're not outsourcing sales, we're not outsourcing appointment booking, we're not outsourcing client delivery, and we're not outsourcing content or anything of that nature. We're outsourcing everything in between, all of the annoying nitty little bitty, I don't know if that was a bit of a tongue twister, all the nitty gritty bitty little details that we have to do, little tasks to run the company, just things like invoices, things like support, just these little things that can honestly be done by somebody else. Okay, so that's the point of the assistant, virtual assistant, not to outsource anything else. Okay, really crucial. But it's going to be the first person you hire, because in order for you to get really good at sales, get really good at appointment booking, get really good at content creation, and get really good at delivering value and iterating on all of those things accordingly, you need to spend as much time and as much energy and as much potential as you possibly can on those four things. And therefore, anything that isn't one of those four things can be outsourced and done by somebody else. So we're going to talk about when to hire a virtual assistant, where to hire a virtual assistant, how to hire a virtual assistant, and a little warning specifically on hourly based pay and how to pay them, what to pay them, the whole full mile here. Okay, you know me, no stone unturned. So welcome to Virtual Assistant Masterclass hire number one. A virtual assistant, or VA, as I'll be referring to them throughout this video, is usually the best hire for a starting solopreneur, partially because it gives you practice with hiring and managing someone, but mainly because it makes so many menial tasks and tedious tasks able to take off your plate. Your time is going to become super valuable, and you must protect your time like your life depends on it, because honestly, it kind of does. And most virtual assistants are happy to work for extremely cheap. And so we can get virtual assistants for $5 an hour. And your time is worth more than this. And now that you have a business, it's a perfect trade-off. And so what I did when I started my first business is I was making literally $5-6 an hour as an apprentice. And what I would do is I would give basically, towards the end of my apprenticeship, the last 3 months, I was making more like $15 an hour. Okay. So the last couple of months I was doing okay because I started making some sales, getting commission. And so what I would do is I was doing lots of tasks in my business because I was starting it during my first apprenticeship. And so I would make $15 per hour, okay? And so what I would do is I was doing all these tasks. So I went and I found a virtual assistant and I paid them $5 an hour to do a bunch of tasks for me. Because I was like, well, if my time's worth $15 an hour, then an extra hour of work means an extra $15 for me. So I was basically profiting $10 per hour on my time that I could spend working instead of doing the tasks. And that's kind of a beginning way to look at it. But now, for example, I value my time at a couple of grand an hour, probably. And so, it doesn't make sense for me to be doing anything that I can pay someone less than a couple of grand an hour to do. And that's how you have to start thinking about your time. Although your time might not be worth that much right now, it doesn't really matter. You need to get into the habit of doing this, because the only way your time will be worth that much is when you are high enough leveraged, when you have high enough leverage on your time, which obviously comes from the assistance of a VA. So when to hire? So you'll need to make this hire once you actually have some clients on board and have lots of little tasks. So productivity is death by 1,000 cuts. And this means that if you're not able to focus on the high leverage tasks like outreach, sales calls, content, and client delivery, then you're probably doing small, low leverage tasks that could be done by someone else without any skill requirement. So for example, even things as simple as uploading your YouTube videos, or something as simple as just organizing your outreach leads in order of priority, or, managing your support inbox, or, doing sending onboarding contracts to clients and stuff. Now, a quick warning, and I've given you this already, I'm giving it again. Do not hire a virtual assistant to do your outreach, your sales calls, your client delivery, or your content. All of this must be done by you until you are proficient enough to hire a skilled person to do it for you. And that's going to take a year or two. Okay, so until you've got your sales conversion rate dialed in at 30 to 40% as a founder, you're not ready to hire a sales rep. And you need to prove that over 500 to 1,000 calls. Same thing with the appointments thing, same thing with the content thing, same thing with I'm going to hire a script writer to do my YouTube videos. It's brother, You're not ready. You need like 100,000 subscribers. You need to prove that you can get there first before you can hire someone to do it for you. And a lot of people don't understand that because they like to just see business through the mechanism of their own pain avoidance. But trust me, having done this and having helped more than 4,000 people do it, that's how it goes. So if you think it's time and you need help hiring appointment setters, or you need help hiring sales reps, or any other sort of growth role, then honestly just use EasyGrow. And I know this sounds like a plug, but please, for the love of God, do not go with the hiring thing alone. Like, we've got specific instructions on how to hire setters and reps, just like this one for VAs, but for more advanced growth-based roles. Do not try and do this on your own, because the amount of time you will waste and bad hires you will get and the amount of money that's going to cost you is so much more than the investment of EasyGrow by a long mile, okay? So just trust me on that. I know it sounds like a incentive and shit, but you'll get there way faster. So when to hire? So where to hire? So basically, really, I'm going to say one thing about this. There are a bunch of different websites that you can go to hire people. Upwork, onlinejobs.ph, fiverr.com, peopleperhour.com, freelancer.com. Where do you want to hire from? One answer, the Philippines. The Philippines have the best virtual assistants that I've ever seen. I've worked with tons of virtual assistants. In fact, the virtual assistant that I still have in my company that was literally my day one hire is still on board, still doing menial tasks. Bless her. She's amazing. Her husband works for us as well now, so they sort of share these tasks, and she gets other family members involved. Like, we've got this Filipino family that have just been crushing it for us with all these little tasks for the last 4 years. First ever hire, she's still with us from the Philippines, amazing. Any other time I've hired a VA outside of the Philippines, it hasn't worked. That's not to say that other countries don't have good virtual assistants. That's just my personal experience. But what I found is the most consistent virtual assistants in terms of quality, in terms of communication, in terms of English skill, in terms of values, in terms of stuff like that, are from the Philippines. Now, does that mean that other countries they're all bad? No, of course it doesn't. But I'm just telling you from my experience that the Philippines is by far the best place to get them from, okay? So I would recommend that you go to the Philippines. Now, not actually go to the Philippines. You don't need to travel there. We can do this online, right? So you can use any of these websites. Now, what I've got for you here are 13 steps to hire a VA. And they're going to be pretty similar to what you saw in hiring top 1% talent, where I walked you through the process I've got for finding really good talent in 10 steps. But what I'm going to do is give you instructions specific to finding a VA. So the great news is hiring a virtual assistant it's really cool because you can go to any of the above websites here to pretty much get infinite applications. So like the real bottleneck to hiring a talented role like a sales rep or a setter or anything like that is finding applicants and finding candidates and having to reach out to people and like post and stuff. With VAs, they grow on trees, like because it's such a low barrier, it's such a low skill barrier to entry. Anyone can be a VA. So there's loads of them, and it's awesome. So I'm going to give you instructions through Upwork specifically. Now, we'll be using, the reason I'm saying Upwork here is just because this is what I've used to hire VAs in the past. And what I'm walking you through here are instructions on Upwork specifically. Now, Upwork has changed its platform since I made these instructions for my operations manager on how to hire a VA. But for the sake of keeping things simple, you can basically extrapolate the instructions onto any of these ones here. It really is very easy. You don't have to have specific instructions here. So Upwork is what I'll be using, but you don't have to use it. You can use something else. So job offer. So you need to actually have like a job description. These job offer variables are specific to Upwork and may be different to other platforms. And again, by the time you come to use Upwork, it might have changed, right? So these aren't going to be specific, but you can still use your brain to add them in. So headline, you've got the headline here. You can copy and paste. Skills required. You can add any skills here that you want them to have. Scope required, length, level of experience is expert, and location is going to be Philippines. Now, hourly rate, $5 to $10. Some virtual assistants will work for $3 an hour, but to me, that just feels abysmally criminal. I've always paid my VAs upwards of 5 to 10, 5 minimum starting because I didn't really have any money at the start. Well, I'm not going to guilt trip you into paying them more than you want to. You can pay them $3 an hour if you want to. Some people will work for that, but for me, like I've always found that $5 is a good, morally decent starting place, right? But it's entirely up to you what you want to pay them. So job description, you can also record a loom. This is kind of the job description you can copy and paste here with the skills required. You're going to have to insert any skills specific to complete tasks for your business. Technical requirements, this is important. It's very important they have a 64-bit processor computer. You want them to have a Mac or a decent Windows computer. We don't want them, because a lot of people in these countries, or in the Philippines as well, some of them, there is economic deprivation. So, they won't have like the best tech. We want VAs that actually have good laptops, good computers, and also fast and reliable internet connection, okay? Because if they don't have these things, they can't do their job properly because they're doing their job on a computer online. So job roles are included but not limited to, and you can insert all the tasks you want them to do here. And if you're wondering what tasks should they be doing, then you're probably not ready to hire someone yet, because you should have all your standard operating procedures built from the last video, or at least you should be building them, and you should be well aware of what tasks need to be done. And the only reason to develop that awareness is to think about it and actually have them to do in the first place. So you don't want to hire a VA if you haven't got clients and you're not making money, because A, you haven't got any money to pay them, but B, there's not really any tasks to do, because all the administration and admin and operations tasks, they come from like this sort of side effect of signing clients and building systems and shit. So you can tell them to put the number 1, 2, 3 in the application, so we can know they've actually taken time to read the description. And this is basically just the description for the job specifically. It's a little different to the description that I'd encourage you to write when you're coming in the beginning of this week with hiring top 1%. But I've used this description for virtual assistants before, so you can adjust it and change it as you wish. So screening questions. So a lot of these platforms will ask you to screen people. So, you obviously want to put some of them in just so you can actually screen people through, because you're going to get lots of applications and we want to make sure that we're screening them properly. So pretty simple. Like, we're just checking, first of all, like the first thing is like, why do they actually want the opportunity? And what do you think the 3 most important traits are? How much is going to require them in terms of time? Because the last thing you want to be doing is hopping on interviews with people that haven't got enough time to do the tasks. What's your computer? Like, really important. Like, because if someone's like, oh, I've got like a Windows Linux laptop that looks like a pavement slab that was built in 1958. I don't even think they built computers in 1958, but you get my point, right? You want someone with a good computer. Download, upload speed, same thing. What's your previous experience you have in this role? And upon receiving these responses, you just want to look out for grammar and spelling errors. Those that put more effort into their answers are more likely to be conscientious and driven. So again, like, we're just looking for this common sense here. Like, are they actually taking time to fill out these answers, and do they qualify? Advanced preferences, if you can set them, we need them to be fluent in English. This is non-negotiable. If they're not fluent in English, like with a bloody good English, like not an accent, but just with bloody good English, they're not going to be a good fit, because they're going to have to communicate with you, with clients, and they're going to have to use softwares and tools and resources and SOPs and videos that are in English. And so the entire communication network that you're going to create in your company is going to be English. So they don't speak it or they're not fluent in it, then they're going to be in trouble. So create an event in Calendly. This should say cal.com. So, you can use Calendly or cal.com. If you want to use cal.com, I've got a referral link here. You should have set up cal.com in previous videos. So make sure that you've obviously gone ahead and watched weeks 1 through 5, because we refer to cal.com and how to use it quite a lot throughout other videos. But you can create an event called VA Interview, 30 minutes long. Make sure you have lots of availability in the morning and the evening if your time zone doesn't align with the Philippines. So obviously you're going to be interviewing people in the Philippines and Southeast Asia specifically. So you just want to make sure that the times on there are suitable for people who are booking, right? And you have to consider that if you're in like Pacific time or Eastern time, whatever. No questions are required. Just set up as a Zoom meeting. You can connect your Zoom within Calendly or cal.com and integrate things within these softwares as well. And I'll just change this for your ease. Much prefer cal.com. So inviting candidates for an interview. So basically what will happen is you're going to go ahead and post this job description on, honestly, I would just do all these websites. Like, I would just create a job description. I spend like an hour just going through and doing it for all of these websites here, right? And then what these websites will do, what these platforms will do, is they'll just send it out to people who they think are qualified. And then you're going to get tons of applicants. So you want to wait like a week. Honestly, I would just say 1 week, because 2 weeks is a little bit too long. I'd wait a week before replying to applicants. So you go through all the applicants on all of the platforms and delete those who have clearly put no effort into their application when answering the screening questions. Also delete those that don't have a 64-bit computer or a powerful laptop, or the ones that have shitty internet speed. You're going to narrow it down to the point where you have a pool of applicants that qualify for the role on paper. And you want to send the qualified candidates this message here. So you can just copy and paste this. And then you obviously want to put your link in here, right? And then you also say what time you plan on making the decision, done. So you just copy and paste that, send it over to them, and they'll book in to your calendar. And then what you want to do is log your candidates in the VA candidate spreadsheet. For the people that actually book, didn't mean to do that. So for the people that actually book, what you want to do is come to this spreadsheet here, and you've got a spreadsheet that you can use to track all of the people who are you interviewing, right? And so what you can do is you can put their name, email, and an application in here. If you want, you can create an automation for this, but it's such a simple one-time hire that you don't need to do that really. And then you can put the answers to their screening questions in here, and then also the answers that they have to the interview questions in here. And if you're wondering like how the hell you're supposed to fit all the information, what I would do is just come here, press insert note, and then you can type away to your heart's content and copy and paste their answers in like this. And then whenever you want to see their answers, you can just hover, okay? Instead of having to like have a horrific amount of data in this sheet, okay? So interviewing your VAs. So once you've got a handful of qualified VAs, it's obviously time to interview them. So you want to refer to this resource for information on best interviewing practices and questions to ask. So I've already been through these best practices in the hiring 1%, so I will save you the trouble of repeating myself. Again, if you haven't watched the hiring 1%, you should go and watch it because it's a sort of precursor to this. And also the SOP video before this is a precursor to this. So again, all these videos are made with the intention of you doing this in order. So please make sure that you have all the way from week 1 through to week 6, right? From the beginning. So there's no point in hiring a VA if you haven't got business yet, right? So these are the best practices for interviewing. You can read through them again and just sort of, you can see them on the screen here if you want to pause the video and just reread them. But obviously I've already been through them in an earlier video, but it's a good little reminder. And then these are the questions that you can ask. So honestly, I'd probably just ask all of these really. There's like 13. And you know, you can get through these interviews pretty quickly depending on the depth of answer you get from people. So pretty simple. Again, what sort of work are you doing? Why are you looking for something new? Can you give me an example of how you effectively organize your time when managing projects with clients? Can you give me an example of a time when you came up with your work but couldn't get hold of your project manager and had to solve it on your own? What does your dream client look like? Can you tell me about past client you've loved working with? What about your worst client? Are you the kind of person to ask for feedback? What don't you enjoy? I know you don't know the skills or experience of the people I'm interviewing, but if you had to guess, why do you think you'd be better at other people? What's your superpower, right? If you were offered this job and a couple of others at the exact same time, what are the top factors that would help you decide which job to take? Want to confirm your pay rate? They'll sort of tell you that. You should know their pay rate specifically from the platform. What else would you like to share when considering yourself for this position? And do you have any questions for me? And that's pretty much it, right? So these are not difficult interviews. Like we're not doing this sort of like, you know, Goldman Sachs finance style 7-step interview process. It's literally just like 10 to 15 questions that are very basic. Because again, this isn't a skill-based role. We're just looking to get a vibe check for the person. And also the main thing is we're just looking to measure the fluency of their English. And the next step is really crucial. So once you've interviewed them, you want to narrow down like 3 to 4 really solid candidates. So the ones that really stand out as the best to you. The interview will not give us a grasp on their competency, so we need to test them out and see how they perform on the job. So what you need to do is plan a test assignment. Okay. Now I can't really do this for you because you're probably going to be hiring the VA for different tasks in your business specifically. But what you want to do is send a standard operating procedure or 2, you know, SOPs that aren't too invasive or require them to be too integrated into a company, and see how they perform. So pay attention to the details and how thorough they were. Don't be afraid to create a slightly complex fake task for them to do and see how closely they follow the instructions. So all we're doing here is sending them SOPs or creating an SOP around a fake task and literally just being like, hey, like, can you follow these instructions for me? It can be anything. It can be as simple as like, can you make this thing for me on Canva? Or can you know, on Miro, can you just map this out for me? Or can you follow, like if you want a simple one, like you could ask them to set up, you could send them, you remember like the resource that I gave you in week 1? Sorry, not week 1, earlier on in week 5 in the building outbound systems. It's actually in week 1 as an example of an SOP is the, sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. I'm trying to locate a resource in my brain without Google Drive. Okay, in the last video on workflows and standard operating procedures, I included the scheduler setup workflow. Do you remember? It's like 32 steps on how to set up a scheduler in the SOP video in the last video. What you could do is you could send a virtual assistant that document, remove the payment part, like the team part, and just tell them like, hey, go and set up cal.com for me and configure this. And then go in and just check it out and see if it's like all done. And remove the parts where they have to like subscribe or set up any payment stuff, because that's obviously not necessary, because you're not going to give them your payment details over Upwork, right? But that's a good place to start. Just like, hey, go and set up this scheduler for me. So you can probably go and amend that now. It literally will take you like a minute or two. And that could be a good test assignment. Or you might have something else that you want to test them on. There's 101 things that you could give them, okay? So when you give out the test assignment, you'll probably have to hire them on Upwork or through the other channels recommended, but that's fine. It won't cost you much, but you're going to have to give them like a job for like an hour or two, basically, right? And so they will have to get paid for this, obviously. So step 8 is really simple. You kind of saw it coming, deciding. So now you have to decide which VA to work with. So you should be choosing from 3 to 5 virtual assistants that you've already interviewed and tested. And to decide, just think about the long term and who you'd want to work with and who fits the desired culture of your business. Like, a lot of it, honestly, is like, who do you vibe with? Like, you can't be making purely a vibe-based decision, because a lot of people are very cool but very incompetent, right? But generally speaking, like who do you just see yourself getting along with? Like when I interviewed our VA, we'll call her Susie. Her name's not Susie, but for the sake of keeping her identity private in this group, let's say her name is Susie. She, like, when we had the first interview 5 years ago, it was like, she was just cool. She was just chill. She was really nice, easy to get along with. It kind of humorous, kind of funny. Obviously a bit nervous on the interview, but just chill. And I liked it. And she wasn't like trying to be someone she wasn't, and that went a long way. And when we started working with, insert her name here, Susie, not called Susie, we just gave her a bunch of tasks, and she just, she started off kind of slow, took her a minute or two to get used to it, and now she literally runs like a massive part of our business. And we salary her, and she's paid properly, and she supports her entire family, and her husband works for us, and it's awesome. So ask yourself, will I enjoy working with this person? Can I offload more work to them long term? Did they follow my instructions properly with the test? Are they diligent and efficient? And based on their interview answers, are they a good fit? Making a decision is down to you, and there's no resource or steps I can give you to do this. It's just got to be based on your gut and the information you have available. So you want to have a backup. So think about who you want the most, and then think about who you would want if they decided not to take the job. So again, do not tell, or not again, because I haven't told you this before, but do not tell losing candidates they've lost until you've onboarded the winner. Because what might happen is you might go to someone and say, hey, I want to give you this job, and they might say no. And at that point, you've told everybody else, like, I don't want to hire you, then and then you come back and say, actually, I do. The initial conditions of that relationship are fucked, right? And you don't want to do that. So offering the job, so once you've made the decision, send the winning candidate the job offer. And here is an example. So you can literally just copy and paste this message to them and just say like, hey, like, just take a day or two to make the decision, take some time. This is because we want you as a long-term member of our team, and I want you to be interested in the work you will be doing. So everyone's going to say yes because they bloody applied for the thing, right? But still, you just want to say to them, like, just to be certain, take 24 hours and, let me know. Most of them will just say yes immediately. I forgot to, let's include this. So when you copy and paste this message, let's format this differently, shall we? Let's put this down here so you can see the whole message. That's fine. Okay, yeah, so this is the entire message here. You want to make sure you change the date and also how much you're paying them per hour here as well, but this just sets their expectations, tees them up, and gives them a little bit of time to decide. And then the legal agreement, so you'll be happy here, I've got a specific VA contractor agreement that you can use. So once your candidate has agreed to work with you, you need to send an agreement to make things official. So do this by using DocuSign or an alternative e-signature provider, and email the agreement to the VA for an e-signature, okay? So feel free to use his template. I've got it for you here. Again, as always with my legal document templates, it's a template. It's not legal advice, and you should always seek the advice of a lawyer before using any legal documents from this program. Again, they're templates for inspiration. I'm not recommending you use this. It's a template. These documents are not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not qualified, and I recommend that you consult a qualified lawyer before using any templated legal documents found in this program, okay? And that is that. Now, I've actually made a slight mistake here. I'm sure you're getting a little sick of me editing these as we go, but I'm sure you can forgive me. So it's not actually 13 steps, it's only 12 steps. I thought earlier on when I said 13, it was a little confusing, but I'm sure you can let me off, okay? So anyway, where were we? Yeah, so template here, pretty simple. All you really have to amend are the things in yellow. Okay, so we're just getting a set of tasks, time and dates, hours that they need to be working, how much they're going to be working per hour per project, when you'll pay them, and how you'll pay them at the beginning. Obviously, this is going to be like the platform that you found them on, right? We'll just do this. Okay. Now, eventually you want to take them away from Upwork and you want to pay them by bank transfer or Wise or PayPal, because the VAs, they get obviously you pay fees for these platforms, and the virtual assistants will pay fees for these platforms as well. So eventually, after a month or two, we're going to move away from the platform, but for now it's fine. And then they can sign here. And if you want to use like a specific software to sign, then you can just use DocuSign or any other signature software like HelloSign, PandaDoc, anything like that. Okay, very simple to set up and very easy to follow. So sending Upwork job offer. So again, this is going to be like, it might be Upwork, it might be something else. So create a job in Upwork or whatever platform you decided to use and send it to your VA. And for the first month or two, I'd advise paying them through Upwork. But step 12 is salarying them. So after a month or two, you want to move your VA from hourly work to a salary. Figure out how many hours the tasks are taking them and negotiate a monthly salary for them. This incentivizes efficiency. And if you want, you can move to pay their salary via TransferWise. This is actually just called Wise now. Or PayPal as opposed to Upwork. They'll prefer this and they'll much appreciate it, but they'll probably want to be paid through Upwork for the first couple of months to show that you actually paid them on time and are consistent with your payments and stuff like that. Now, a quick warning for you on hourly based pay. So you're going to pay them hourly for the first month or two. You can't avoid it, because what a VA won't be comfortable doing is spending a month doing all this work and doing all these hours without the guarantee that they're going to be paid, because a lot of people just wouldn't pay them, right? So the first month or two, like first couple of months, 2-3 months, we do it through Upwork. But then what you want to do afterwards is move them to the salary, and bear in mind that hourly based pay for project based work incentivizes inefficiency. So if you're giving them a set task that you know takes a certain amount of time, then they should be paid upon completion for the task, not the hours it took them to complete it. This is crucial. So think about it. Okay, let's say that I say to you, hello mate, I'm going to pay you $10 per hour. And you're like, okay, cool. And I say, here's a task that I want you to complete. And you're like, okay, cool. You now have an incentive to work as slowly as humanly possible, because the longer that task takes you, the more hours you can bill me for. And this is why I hate lawyers. This is why I hate accountants. Well, not all accountants. My accountant's bloody amazing, bless her. But this is why I hate people that bill hourly. I hate it. Because what it does is it gives them a direct incentive to be slow. Okay? And so let's say, for example, that task A takes 15 minutes to complete at reasonable efficiency. This means that for every 4 completions, the VA would take 1 hour, which means they get paid X dollars. So the way that I pay my virtual assistants, if it's project-based work, like if it's like, let's say that I want a virtual assistant to do like client onboarding, and every client onboarding takes like 20 minutes. Then what I will do is I will say for every 3 onboardings you do, you will get paid $10, because you are $10 an hour. If they're $5 an hour, then you calculate how long the task takes, you multiply it by how many completions of the task they'd have to take to hit an hour, and then you pay them for that amount of completions. This is a little advanced. It's a bit of a different incentive management structure. Again, like there's 101 ways to incentivize people for specific roles. This is fine. This is fine for virtual assistant. Rep, setters, etc. That's all easy grow shit, but don't worry about that for now. This is a great way to pay virtual assistants, as it removes any incentive for them to be lazy or to drag tasks out. Just to, again, beware. Hourly based pay for task and project based work incentivizes inefficiency. So we want to avoid, hourly is fine for the first month or two, but as soon as we can, we want to move them to a salary, or specifically to paying them on the completion of a set amount of tasks that we know will round out an hour. So that's basically how to hire virtual assistants and a quick VA masterclass. In the next video, we're going to be talking about team management and basic team structures so that you can get started with actually building out communication channels, training, expectations, culture development. Very, very sort of top level team building stuff here, because again, you haven't got a team yet. You're not going to have like a 10-man team, a 20-man team, a 50-man team, a 100-man team for a while, but I want to just set your foundations for team building, because if you're serious about building this business, you're going to need a team, and the first team member you're going to hire is probably a VA. So that's everything for the Virtual Assistant Masterclass, and I will look forward to seeing you in the team building module next. Take care.